I think with blended families, we have such a unique family dynamic. And with the coaching, it allows us to talk about those step parenting issues, the step-parent, step-child relationship issues.
I think of Apostle Paul, who says, the things I don't want to do, I do. And the things I want to do, I don't do. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And then he says, when I'm weak,
that?
God is strong. And so please, even for the men out there, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't rob yourself of the opportunity to grow. To grow for yourself, to grow for your family, to grow for your kids, to grow in your faith.
When you put in the work and when you are intentional, God will show up and he will bless your obedience. And so it's staying faithful to that. And that's what I love about coaching and love seeing with our couples and with individuals.
Having a team where you can go to, like you said, Vanessa, that neutral place of someone who's trained, someone who can ask the appropriate questions and guide you, that's huge.
Your blended family has a 100% chance of success when you do it God's way. We're Blended Kingdom Families, and we want to provide biblical resources to heal and restore families with a message of hope for the next generation.
Hey guys, welcome back to the BKF podcast. We're so excited to have Dr. Dan Ennaco back with us, and we're so excited to be talking to you today about coaching versus therapy because, one, BKF offers coaching, but as both therapists, and I'm also a coach, there is a distinct difference, and you can get a lot from both. And so Dan is also, you have a PhD in psychology. And and you've also taught collegiately as well.
Yep.
And so you're a wealth of knowledge, Dan, in that I'll be graduating in May with my master's in marriage and family therapy. Woo-woo. Almost done, you guys. But yeah, this is just, something, you guys, that we get a lot of questions about. And we go through these seasons where we see a need, where we have a lot of people reaching out, whether it's our counseling center, because we have a counseling center here in the DFW area called 7 Therapy. And, but it also happens with the ministry. And we typically see this a lot at the beginning of the year, at the end of year, and then with summer transitions and during the holidays. And so we want to dive into it and just talk about what coaching is, what therapy is, and how maybe they could be beneficial to you and your family if that is something you're needing or someone you know that may need it. So defining coaching and therapy. So Dan, what is therapy?
Wow, what a big...
It's a big, broad statement. But yeah, what do we mean by therapy? Like generally, what is that?
Generally speaking, therapy is you're usually going to a place, but a lot of people are doing online therapy as well now. But you're meeting with a licensed professional who's trained in understanding not just what's going on with the way people think, feel, and behave, but diagnostically speaking, they can diagnose mental health issues to help build a treatment plan to get people back to full functioning. Generally speaking, most people are going to see a therapist because there's some impairment in their daily living. They're struggling with anxiety to the extent that they're having a hard time focusing maybe, or if you have severe depression, they might struggle with even doing the most severe state of depression. They might struggle with even taking a shower or attending to their basic needs. So therapy in general is just meeting with someone who's well-trained to help meet your needs in the area of mental illness.
No, that's good. And I guess to ask the same question about coaching, I think coaching is more of like a forward moving, growth process. So it's a lot of implementing goals. Everybody's heard of SMART goals, but it's also a partnership and a place of action and clarity and accountability. And so I think that's the great thing about coaching is that it's also more directional too. Whereas counseling and therapy is more of you're leading your client through a process and you're allowing them to come to their own thoughts and conclusions about things. And yes, you do that in coaching, but it can be more directional and more practical in the sense of, okay, let's try this, and this, and let's measure it. What is the outcome? And let's put a time on it so that we can complete these goals or get to this point.
Yeah, definitely. Coaching can be a little more directive,
Yeah.
a little more goal and solution oriented. And
Yeah.
therapy is sometimes, depending on your theoretical orientation, which that's a whole other
Solution
podcast.
focused.
But
Yes.
you're going to be looking at things that influence you in your day to day, but
Yeah.
maybe you're digging into the past
Yes.
to help bring awareness or
Yeah.
insight to things that are influencing your present day.
Yeah.
And so it might take a little longer. Generally speaking, coaching can be quicker because it is a little more directive. And you can literally be more direct in session with people versus therapy in the general sense. You're going to allow them, like you said, draw their own conclusions, maybe provide some prompting or probing questions, but you're giving them space to process their emotions, their feelings, and their behaviors.
Exactly. And so I want to go into two things next. And one is, why we love coaching in a blended family context. We're a blended family ministry, but also what coaching isn't and why this is good to know, because what will often happen, I recognize this, and Scott will recognize this when we're in, say, a couples coaching session and we realize that there is some trauma that has happened, that we're actually dealing with some depression, sometimes severe, or anxiety. Sometimes suicidal ideation. And that's where we have to make a quick judgment call of, hey, coaching, this is not going to be good. Like, you probably want to seek out professional help. And so that's where there is a distinction. So I want to talk about those two things, like why we love blended family coaching and in that context, but also what coaching isn't and what is good to know about that. So, I think with blended families, we have such a unique family dynamic. And with the coaching, it allows us to talk about those step parenting issues, the step parent, stepchild relationship issues, the high conflict co-parenting issues, past marriages, all of those different things. And it allows you with your coach to kind of map this journey that you're going to take together. And like we talked about just a minute ago, get to those goals or to those places that we want to be. We want to set healthy boundaries. We want to build a shared vision for our family, because I think oftentimes when we're blending, and sometimes we've been years into our blended family, we're just like, hey, this is not working and we don't know what to do. And that's where reaching out to a coach for help who is this neutral place and can be a safe place. And it's like, hey, I hear you saying this. You're telling me this. Have you thought about this? And you can get this outside perspective that can be helpful. I think the other thing that coaching is helpful too is it is very solution focused. So you're not rehashing a lot of the trauma and maybe things that you've experienced. It's more of like, hey, this is the issue. We want this outcome, and how can we take steps to reach this outcome? And maybe it's not the full outcome that we had desired or hoped for, but it gets us to a place where we have more peace in our blended family, where we have more unity, where there's more structure and stability, or, that we're, able to do, these daily things without there being a meltdown or, things like that are going on.
What do you enjoy about coaching?
Man, there's a lot that I enjoy. I think one of the things that I really enjoy is it's definitely the aha moments, but I think it's also when your individual or when your couples recognize the growth within themselves, and when they see that putting in the work produces these outcomes and that they're blessed by it. I think that for me is like, look what happens when you're just obedient to what God is telling you to do in this season and partnering with Him and the blessings that will bring. Because it's not anything that we can say or do that changes that. We know that it's the Holy Spirit speaking in and through all of us in those conversations. But it's when you put in the work and when you are intentional, God will show up and He will bless your obedience. And so it's staying faithful to that. And that's what I love about coaching and love seeing with our couples and with individuals.
Yeah, that's really cool. The reason I asked is because, it's okay to need help.
Yeah.
And it's probably wise to have a team around you to help you. And so whether you're meeting with a therapist, a coach, probably both, because they complement each other really well for different reasons like we've discussed.
Yep.
But having a team where you can go to, like you said, Vanessa, that neutral place of someone who's trained, who's someone who can ask the appropriate questions and guide you, that's huge.
Yeah.
And similarly, in my own, when I was doing therapy, and even as a professor, just seeing people get that aha moment where you get to witness their growth, that is such a cool feeling to be a part of that. And you do have to know what you're doing to an extent, because you're guiding that conversation, you're facilitating the discussions. But really the goal is for them to leave more equipped to handle the things of their life.
Yeah.
Because what they come into, whether it be a therapy room or a coaching session, what they come in with, you might work through that, but the skills hopefully are transferable to the future challenges they would face. As a blended family, if you have young kids, well, they're going to get older and things might change. And are you building skills in the coaching session that are going to help you with assertive communication, boundary setting, co-parenting, all that stuff, transferable skills that equip you to do this really, really well. So I'm glad to hear that one of the more exciting things that you like about coaching is actually something I always liked about therapy and even teaching.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that they marry or mirror each other in so many ways. But there is that distinction difference. And this is where I want to hear, we all want to hear from you, Dan, is, what coaching isn't and why this is good to know that.
So you mentioned earlier about sometimes you go into a session and someone has issues that coaching is not the most appropriate fit to address.
Yeah.
So that could be someone's distraught about a trauma from their past and they're reliving it, maybe from post-traumatic stress disorder. We know that flashbacks and intrusive thoughts, feeling on edge, being hypervigilant, these are common symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. If someone's coming into a coaching session with that to the point where they can't even focus on any of the directives you're giving, or they're just not present, then it would be most appropriate for them to get mental health care and then come back when their symptoms are not as frequent or as severe. Because a lot of my work in therapy was with acute, severe mental illness, in the sense of substance abuse, but suicidal ideation. I mean, if someone is having thoughts to harm themselves or others, sitting and talking to them about setting boundaries is just not appropriate. So the distinction really is on severity of symptoms and whether it's more appropriate based off your professional judgment to help them in a coaching setting or refer them out to a licensed therapist or counselor that can help better meet those needs. Because the worst thing you can do is to sit with someone that you're not helping.
Exactly.
You talk about you have a duty to do no harm. Well, you're not doing any good to really waste someone's time and not address the deeper issues. So if someone is coming in and they have, and this is not to minimize issues of boundaries and communication. Those are hard to deal with. Those are really, really tough to deal with. That is different than someone with severe depressive symptoms where they are sitting with you and they're unable to focus because they're consistently crying and they cannot gather that together, or the setting doesn't allow them to really process that. And that, I think, is a big distinction as well. Is in coaching, you're not, generally speaking, you're not necessarily going to be processing those harder, deeper, more frequent emotions. Therapy is the place for that.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I know that there's a lot of feelings and people have a lot of anger or resentment or even grief around like their blended families not blending, or if it's a step-parent, stepchild dynamic, like the feelings that they're feeling, those are what I think in blended family coaching, it's we recognize that because we can empathize with it because we have experienced it. And then also what I love about therapy is there's more of a processing with that and more of like, where's the root of that coming from, and dealing with that, whether it may be from, past experiences, like you said, in your life, or maybe your parents divorced before. And so I think knowing and understanding that distinction is good. But what I love is that coaching can be a great asset to therapy. So if you're going to therapy for, for your marriage isn't doing well, or for depression or anxiety, and it's like, hey, I want to get with a life coach because, I have goals to, build my career or whatever. We can go to therapy to process and deal with the hard emotions and with the traumas and with those things that coaching can't provide. But coaching can be the great tool on the side that's like, okay, well, let's get you to from A to B and accomplish some of these goals so that, we're building you for success. We're creating a strong foundation for what the future is or whatever that may be.
Yeah, and definitely coaching. There's different types of coaching as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some, like you said, there's these different topics that you're going to be discussing in the BKF coaching, blended family focused coaching. But you're still going to hit on things like finances, probably.
Yep.
You're going to hit on things like boundaries. You're going to hit on things like communication or dysfunction in general. Those will have a mental health component.
Yeah.
And yet, coaching could be the great supporter in that sense.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, this is going to sound kind of weird. Everybody needs a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And therapists and coaches are rooting for you.
Yeah. Yes.
And I will say, let me just say this too. If you've gone to a therapist or a coach and you didn't fit with them, that's important to recognize.
Yes.
But that's not a reason to not go.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to try a couple different coaches or a couple different therapists.
Yes.
And just remain in that sense of curiosity. Why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? I think of Apostle Paul, who says, the things I don't want to do, I do. And the things I want to do, I don't do. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And then he says, when I'm weak, God is strong. And so please, even for the men out there, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Don't rob yourself of the opportunity to grow. To grow for yourself, to grow for your family, to grow for your kids, to grow in your faith, to live beyond the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's what I love the most about
Dan.
therapy and teaching college students about the different clinical orientations in therapy. And that's what I love about coaching is you have someone who's pushing you to grow and they're rooting for you. And so don't be afraid. Sometimes you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest.
To let God do what he's intended to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let God fill the void for once.
Yeah. It's so good. And I'm like, and this is like, if you're wondering, do I need this? I would just, lean into is our family culture aligned? Are we co-parenting well? Do we have clarity about our roles and values? Whatever it is that you may be struggling with in your marriage, in your blended family, if you're a single parent, if you just got divorced, whatever that is, coaching can be a great tool for you, and so can therapy. For BKF, we do provide coaching. We have multiple coaches, male and female and couples coaches that can provide that for you. And so you guys, if you're listening to this and you're just even wondering, y'all, we do free consultation calls. So reach out to BKF, go to our coaching page, and one of our team members will get in touch with you, can answer any questions that you may have, and, just see hey, could this be something that my family needs right now? So we just want to encourage you to do that. Well, Dan, thanks so much for being here again with us today and just providing your insight and input on, therapy, because I know that that's a big part of your world, and obviously with all of the just the education that you have around that. And so thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And you guys, we're here to serve and help you and your blended family however we can. But we hope that this podcast episode blessed you. Leave us a comment, ask us any questions. We would love to get back to you. If you're in need of prayer, please let us know. We would love to pray for you and your family. But we hope you have a wonderful and blessed day.
Hey friends, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we talk about more blended family topics. Be blessed in all that you do, and remember, nothing will be impossible with God.